Alright, welcome back to IT Infotech with Piscean. In this video, I'm going to go over the Soul in the Machine and IT philosophy essay on the creation of AI, Japan's alternative path, and the DeepSeek phenomenon. Before we get started, I'd appreciate it with peace and love if you subscribe, like, comment, and share if you dare. We care about you, and we want to teach you for free. So, let's get started with the prologue, which is the philosophical question. What does it mean to create intelligence? Well, this question, once the exclusive province of theologians and philosophers, has become the central technical challenge of our age. The history of AI is not merely a chronicle of algorithms and architectures. It is a philosophical journey through different civilizations' understanding of what it means to think, to learn, and to be. In this essay, we trace the creation of AI from its theoretical foundations through its geographical migrations, with particular attention to Japan's unique but ultimately divergent path, and conclude with a meditation on what DeepSeek's emergence reveals about the relationship between culture, capital, and cognition. DeepSeek is the one that I use pretty often. If you've seen my other videos, you know this. Let's go ahead and talk about the genesis of the artificial mind. The theoretical foundations. The creation myth of AI begins not in a laboratory, but in the mind of a mathematician contemplating the boundaries of the computable. Alan Turing's 1936 conceptualization of the universal machine, a theoretical device capable of computing anything that is computable, laid the philosophical groundwork for the notion that thought itself might be mechanized. Turing's subsequent work, from breaking the Enigma code at Bletchley Park to his 1950 proposal of the imitation game, what we now call the Turing test, transformed the question, can machines think, from metaphysical speculation to empirical investigation. Talk about the formal birth of AI as a discipline, and it occurred in the summer of 1956 when John McCarthy convened a small group of researchers at Dartmouth College. McCarthy, who would later develop the Lisp programming language, the Latin of AI, coined the term artificial intelligence for the occasion. The Dartmouth workshop brought together figures who would define the field for decades: Marvin Minsky, Herbert Simon, and Alan Newell, who had already demonstrated the logic theorists, the first program capable of automated reasoning. As one historian notes, this meeting marked the birth of AI as a formal discipline. The ensuing decades witnessed the classic pattern of technological emergence: exuberant breakthrough followed by disillusioned winter. The 1960s brought Eliza, Joseph Weizenbaum's remarkable simulation of a Rogerian psychotherapist that exposed humanity's willingness to anthropomorphize even the simplest pattern machining. The 1970s saw the development of expert systems like Dendrol, which extracted molecular structures from mass spectrometer data. Yet by 1984, the field had entered its first AI winter, as funding evaporated and expectations collapsed. So, let's talk about the ecological view of intelligence. The philosopher of technology might ask, what is AI, ontologically speaking? One useful framing comes from computer scientist 2G, who describes AI not as a single technology, but as an ecological forest. This forest comprises many disciplinary trees. Computer science contributes data structures and algorithms. Mathematics contributes statistics, topology, and information theory. Hardware engineering contributes GPUs, network infrastructure, and semiconductor physics. In this view, an AI system is not merely software. It is a crystallization of an entire technological civilization. ChatGPT, AlphaFold, and DeepSeek are not isolated achievements but fruits that emerge when the soil, infrastructure, water, data, and sunlight, human capital, align. This ecological perspective will prove essential for understanding why different nations have followed different paths in the pursuit of AI. Part 2, I'd like to talk about the Japanese genealogy, a different conception of intelligence. And this is the biological alternative. While the American AI tradition, from McCarthy to the statistical learning theorists of the 1990s, emphasized symbolic manipulation and probabilistic inference, post-war Japan developed a distinctive approach rooted in quite different intellectual soil. The key institution was not a university computer science department, but the Visual and Auditory Information Science Laboratory, also known as VAISL at NHK, Japan's public broadcasting corporation. It was founded in 1965 by Hiwatashi Kenji. VAISL pursued what its researchers called a bionics of vision, a trinity of engineering, physiology, and psychology. This framework reflected a fundamentally different philosophical orientation. Rather than asking how to make machines that simulate intelligence through symbol manipulation, VAISL researchers asked how biological systems actually achieve perception and cognition, and how those principles might be engineered. The fruit of this approach was the neocognitron, developed by Fukushima Kunihiko at VAISL in the 1970s. The neocognitron was the world's first deep convolutional neural network, an architecture inspired directly by the hierarchical structure of the visual cortex. Decades before AlexNet would spark the deep learning revolution, Fukushima had already implemented a system that learned to recognize patterns through successive layers of feature detection, with simple cells and complex cells mirroring the discoveries of neurophysiologists Hubo and Wiesel. The philosophical significance of this achievement cannot be overstated. While American AI pursued what might be called a Cartesian path, intelligence as explicit, symbol manipulating reason, Japanese researchers pursued what we might term the biological path, intelligence as embodied, hierarchical pattern recognition. The neocognitron was not merely a technical artifact, it was a philosophical statement about the nature of mind. Let's talk about the fifth generation and its aftermath. So the divergence between Japanese and Western AI trajectories became starkly visible in the 1980s. In 1982, Japan's Ministry of International Trade and Industry launched the fifth generation computer systems project, a bold national initiative to create a computer that can think, understand language, read text, perform inference, and learn. With funding of approximately 540 billion yen, roughly $2.2 billion at the time, the project aimed to leapfrog Western computing by developing machines optimized for knowledge processing rather than mere number crunching. The fifth generation project had the paradoxical effect of galvanizing American and European responses while ultimately failing to achieve its own ambitious goals. The project's approach, centered on logic programming and parallel inference machines, proved mismatched with the statistical revolution that would later define modern AI. More fundamentally, as Waseda University professor Aishizuka Mitsuru observed, the project's achievements never found their way into broad application. The internet age was dawning, with its principle of use makes technology stronger, a principle that the fifth generation's insulated research environment could not replicate. Now, what followed was catastrophic for Japanese AI research. The project's termination in 1992 coincided with the rise of the commercial internet, a revolution whose significance Japan's policymakers and corporate leaders failed to grasp. While America's 1995 Netscape IPO inaugurated the internet boom, Japanese industry remained fixated on manufacturing and embedded systems. The software and platform economy, with its winner-take-all dynamics and rapid iteration cycles, developed largely without Japanese participation. By the time deep learning's breakthrough arrived in 2012, Japan's AI research capacity had atrophied. Government budgets had been slashed, researchers had migrated to other fields. The consequences are measurable. Between 2019 and 2023, the United States produced 182 significant AI models. China produced 30, and Japan produced none. At top conferences like Newer IPS, Japanese author papers declined from 7% in 2012 to 2% in 2023. Alright, I want to talk about the systemic barriers to Japanese AI ascendancy. The educational chasm. So the reasons for Japan's divergence are structural and run deep. Consider higher education. As of late 2024, only 12 Japanese universities had established formal undergraduate programs in data science, and most of these curricula remained anchored in traditional statistics rather than contemporary machine learning. Japan produces approximately 2,800 AI-related master's graduates annually. Less than 1/9 the American output, and 60% of these graduates are concentrated in legacy fields like robotics control. Keio University professor Yamazaki Kazuo's diagnosis is blunt. Our educational system is still training engineers, but AI needs interdisciplinary digital natives. The data supports his claim. In 2023, only 18% of Japanese AI startup founding teams possess genuinely interdisciplinary backgrounds, compared to 57% in Silicon Valley. Now I would like to talk about the capital constraint. The financial dimension is equally stark. Stanford's 2024 AI Index report reveals that Japanese private investment in AI reached approximately $700 million in 2023, against $672 billion in the United States and $78 billion in China. This three-order of magnitude disparity reflects deeper structural factors. Japanese corporate governance prioritizes existing stakeholder relationships over disruptive innovation. Consumer markets are risk-averse, and the venture capital ecosystem remains underdeveloped relative to the economy's overall size. On to the data paradox. Perhaps most ironically, Japan's stringent privacy regime, admirable from a civil liberties perspective, has impeded AI development. The Act on the Protection of Personal Information requires notice consent record procedures for data processing that make large-scale training dataset construction extraordinarily difficult. When Tokyo University Hospital partnered with Fujitsu to develop an ECG-based heart attack prediction system, the requirement for extreme anonymization so degraded the training data that the resulting model's generalization suffered. The philosopher notes the irony. A society that pioneered the biological approach to AI now finds itself unable to access the biological data that modern deep learning requires. Right, now I would like to get into DeepSeek, a different model of creation, the trader's gambit. Into this landscape of American dominance and Japanese absence emerged DeepSeek, a Chinese AI laboratory whose origins defy conventional expectations. DeepSeek was not founded by academics spinning out of a university, nor by a technology giant's research division. It was created by a high-flyer capital management, a quantitative hedge fund. The founder, Liang Wenfeng, reportedly began experimenting with algorithmic trading as a Zhejiang University student. By 2015, he had co-founded Highflyer. By 2019, the firm was deploying AI algorithms across financial markets. In 2023, Highflyer spun out DeepSeek as a separate entity dedicated to fundamental AI research, funded by the trading profits accumulated over years of quantitative investing. This origin story matters philosophically. DeepSeek embodies what we might call the trader's epistemology, a worldview that values pragmatic effectiveness over theoretical purity. that measures truth by what works in the market, and that understands intelligence as ultimately a tool for prediction and decision. Lying Wenfeng's background in quantitative finance, a domain where milliseconds matter, and models must survive the unforgiving test of actual trading, shaped the laboratory's distinctive approach. Onto the efficiency imperative. That approach has been characterized by extreme computational efficiency because American export controls restricted DeepSeek's access to the most advanced NVIDIA chips. The laboratory was forced to innovate with the H800, a less capable processor. Necessity, as the philosopher notes, is the mother of invention. DeepSeek's researchers developed training techniques that achieve competitive performance with dramatically lower compute budgets. When DeepSeek V2 launched in spring 2024, its combination of strong benchmark performance and exceptionally low operating costs forced Chinese competitors like ByteDance and Alibaba to slash their API prices. DeepSeek V3, released in December 2024, reportedly outperformed both open models like Meta's Llama and closed systems like GPT-4o on internal benchmarks. The R1 reasoning model, unveiled in January 2025, demonstrated capabilities comparable to OpenAI's O1 while being offered for free. The philosophical significance lies in what DeepSeek's efficiency demonstrates, that the frontier of AI progress is not solely determined by access to the largest computers. There is a cognitive dimension to AI development, the ingenuity of researchers, the elegance of architectures, the quality of training strategies that can partially substitute for raw computational power. Let's talk about the Chinese context. DeepSeek's emergence must also be understood within its civilizational context. As Bai Qing, co-founder of iFlyTech, observes, DeepSeek's creation reflects the competitive intensity of contemporary Chinese society. Many young people work around the clock developing technology and starting businesses, hoping to become successful entrepreneurs. The phrase work around the clock is not rhetorical flourish. It describes a cultural environment where the pursuit of technological breakthrough is fused with personal ambition and national aspiration. And this stands in stark contrast to Japan, where, as one analyst notes, life is comfortable and competition is no longer as intense, and there are few young Japanese who aspire to become like SoftBank chairman Son Masayoshi. The philosophical implication is profound. Technological creation is not merely a matter of capital and education, but of civilizational desire. A society that no longer hungers for breakthrough may not achieve it, regardless of its historical achievements. Now I would like to bring to you the philosophical synthesis. Two models of intelligence. We can now discern three distinct philosophical models of AI, each rooted in a different civilizational context. So of course there's the American model, and I'm just doing the numbers like this, but really it would be 1, 2, 3. Alright, so the American model, emerging from McCarthy's symbolic AI and maturing through statistical learning to today's large language models, treats intelligence primarily as information processing. The mind is a computer, cognition is computation. The goal is to manipulate symbols or later vectors to produce correct outputs. This model is pragmatic, scalable, and increasingly dominant. The Japanese model, embodied by Fukushima's Neocognitron and the VAISL research program, treats intelligence as biological pattern recognition. The mind is a brain. Cognition is hierarchical feature extraction. The goal is to replicate the mechanisms by which living systems perceive and understand. This model was historically prescient, anticipating deep learning by decades, but lost institutional support before it could fully mature. And the Chinese model, exemplified by DeepSeek, treats intelligence as strategic optimization. The mind is a trader. Cognition is pattern recognition in service of decision. The goal is to achieve maximum predictive power with minimum resources. This model emerges from the crucible of competitive markets and export controls, shaped by the practical demands of survival and success. So the question of DeepSeek's non-emergence in Japan. Why then did DeepSeek not emerge in Japan? The answer lies in the intersection of all the factors we have traced. Educational systems that never pivoted to AI, capital markets that remained risk-averse, corporate structures that prioritize legacy maintenance over innovation, a privacy regime that impeded data accumulation, and perhaps most fundamentally, a cultural environment where the hunger for breakthrough had diminished. Tokyo University professor Masuo Yutaka, often described as Japan's leading AI researcher, offers a measured assessment. In the AI field, the United States and China have completely become the top two. It's like global smartphones, all made in China and America. This is not defeatism, but realism. The window for establishing an independent major AI capability may have closed, at least for the current technological paradigm. Yet Matsuo adds a crucial philosophical point. It's not that there are no new innovative seeds, it's that Japanese society hasn't accepted them. The problem is not merely technical but social, the inability to integrate innovation into economic and cultural life. A society that produces brilliant research but cannot commercialize it, that develops deep learning architectures but cannot scale them, that educates talented individuals but cannot retain them. Such a society possesses the seeds but not the soil. Ethical dimension. We must also consider the shadowy side of each model. The American approach has produced extraordinary capabilities, but also unprecedented concentration of power in a few corporate hands. The Chinese approach, exemplified by DeepSeek, operates within a regulatory framework that requires models to embody core socialist values, meaning that certain questions cannot be asked, certain histories cannot be discussed. The Japanese biological approach, for all its philosophical elegance, never had to confront the ethical challenges of deployed systems because it never achieved deployment. Now, meanwhile, DeepSeek itself has become controversial. Japanese corporations, including Toyota, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, and SoftBank, have banned its use over information security concerns. The New York state government has prohibited DeepSeek on official devices. The very efficiency that makes DeepSeek technically impressive also raises questions about data security, state influence, and the geopolitical dimensions of AI development. And our epilogue will end here: the forest and the trees. We return to the ecological metaphor. AI is not a single invention but an emergent property of entire technological civilizations. The American forest grew tall on sunlight from DARPA and rain from venture capital. The Japanese forest produced unique species, the neocognitron, the fifth-generation architectures, but could not sustain them through the long winter of the 1990s. The Chinese forest, cultivated by state strategy and fertilized by entrepreneurial intensity, has now produced DeepSeek, a fruit that tastes distinctly of its soil. For the IT professional, for the philosopher of technology, for the citizen of the digital age, the lesson is this: when we create AI, we are not merely writing code, we are expressing our deepest assumptions about what intelligence is, what knowledge serves, and what futures we desire. The Japanese biological approach, though marginalized, remains a philosophical resource. A reminder that there were other paths, other conceptions of mind, other ways of being intelligent. Now, whether those paths can be recovered, whether they might inform a different kind of AI future, is a question that remains open. But as Matsuo Yutaka urges, Japanese AI startups and young people must keep challenging, creating new industries, making Japan's overall economy stronger. The challenge is not merely technical but philosophical, to imagine and build intelligences that reflect not only what we can compute but what we value. The creation of AI is, in the deepest sense, the creation of ourselves. Thank you for watching this video with peace and love, and I will see you in my next one talking about whatever the hell it is I'll be talking about or doing. Alright, I'll see you there with peace and love. Piscean out.